spend that much money.
It was almost grounds for divorce, honestly.
Pretty much my entire life is upcycled.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to our Upcycled Life podcast. I am Kirsten, and this is.
Deidre, Kirsten's mom.
We are a mother-daughter team of this podcast, and we talk about lots of different stuff: DIYs, crafting, entrepreneurship, YouTube, and today our topic is going to be sustainability in your life and different tips and tricks that we use that you might find helpful. And also just talking about how to live your life in a more sustainable way in general and what you can do in today's day and age with all the different options and opportunities.
And I have some great tips because my life is upcycled.
Your entire life is upcycled?
Pretty much my entire life is upcycled.
Is there a single corner in your life is there anything that you go to buy and your first thought is, I should buy new? Or is it every single thing is used?
Food. Honestly, I don't really think there's anything in my life that I don't think first that I could buy at secondhand.
Yeah.
There are times when I go to buy something and I need it and I do look for something secondhand and I look for a while and I just never find anything that's going to be suitable. And I do end up buying something new, but not very often.
There isn't, well, and that's a good point because there isn't very many spaces that you can't buy used before and be sustainable other than food. But you can buy things, a couple days old or something if that's what you're into. Or I know, well, in Canada, they have a thing where you can buy like ugly fruit or ugly vegetables. That's kind of
Which is a
something.
great program, but I don't think it is all across Canada yet. There seems to be like the metro areas where it's set up. I know there's one in Vancouver, but
Mm,
maybe Ottawa and Toronto, but not in the smaller centers.
makes sense. More
Yeah,
food to go around at that point, I guess.
yeah.
I wanted to talk to you specifically about your favorite sustainability tips and how you started, because I feel like you were a little bit on the like you were kind of doing it before it was like super cool, because now being like secondhand and being sustainable was cool. It's cool and everyone wants to do it and it's for the environment, which is great. And it totally had this like rebrand over the last probably 10 years. But you were doing it a lot longer than that. A lot of the time when I was younger, I remember, like, to my chagrin, I hated like going to the secondhand store and spending hours there. I just was something that I found so boring. Now I don't, but I was also 12 years old. So yeah, talk a little bit about how you kind of started to do that.
I think the first thing was just I've always kind of been a penny pincher and always wanted to get the most for the money that I was buying.
Side note,
Um,
fun fact: Canada doesn't have pennies anymore, so you're actually a nickel pincher.
I'm a nickel pincher. Yes. Yeah, that's right. Although there were pennies back then when I
That's
was
true.
doing this, but it was always just something that I just could not spend that much money on a certain piece if I knew I could get something cheaper that was probably maybe even better quality. And so that's how I always kind of went that way. And then it turned into the thrill of the hunt, that
Mm,
you wanting to go and you're getting close to the thrift store and you're getting that excitement of, oh, what am I going to find today? This is what I'm looking for. I hope I can find it. So it turned into the excitement of it, but at the base of it, it was just not wanting to spend that money and not wanting to buy something brand new when I knew I could buy something probably almost the same for half the price and be sustainable.
yeah, and in the early days, like, was a lot of it focused on furniture, or was it more clothes, or like kind of like home decor stuff?
I think it started more for me with clothes for you guys as kids. And
Right.
it
Yeah.
and there wasn't the, I mean, we're going back to the early 90s, and there wasn't the selection. There was no online shopping. You had your town, your town shops, 4 or 5 of them that you could get kids clothes at, Sears. I'm trying to think back now. There wasn't that much. So it was nice to go to the thrift store because you could pick from different stores that maybe weren't in your area and thrift them and get them for half the price. I remember the big company that, when you guys were little, was Oshkosh, and they were
Mm.
really pricey. And I used to get so excited when I would go into the thrift store and I'd be looking for the little Oshkosh overalls or the little dresses for you, or the little corduroy pants for your brother. And I was so excited when I could find a piece of Oshkosh because we didn't have anything like that around then. So that's probably when it started, was looking for baby clothes for you guys and trying to save money and be sustainable at the same time.
I don't know why. Like, I know that obviously, like, I grew up in the 90s and I know it was a thing, but when you just said that there was no online shopping, I was immediately like, what did you do? Like,
We
where
went
did you
to
find stuff?
we went to the nearest town and there was 3, maybe 4 stores to pick from. Another store, which I'm sure people my age would remember, is consumers. What was it? It was, anyways, it was a store that they had a catalog out front, and you went through the catalog. And if anybody can remember, go to the comments. It was consumers something,
Was it just
consumers
Canadian or
warehouse.
was it American too?
Not sure. I'm not
Mm.
sure if it was American, but it was Canadian. You would go through the catalog, you would pick out what you would want, you would write down the little code on a piece of paper. They had little pencils and paper there. You would write down the code on the paper, and then you would take your codes and you would give them to the lady at the desk. And then they would go back into the warehouse
No.
and they would pick the product and then they would bring it out to you. And that was like one of 3 or 4 places that we had to pick where you could get stuff from.
That is wild. That takes so much time.
And I remember that was there for a long, long time because I remember myself as a child going in with grandma and her having myself and my 2 other sisters and my mom flipping through this catalog looking for stuff and being like so impatient and wiggly and just wanting to get done, and grandma writing down the codes on the piece of paper and taking them in. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like you can take the catalog home to
No, it was in the store.
oh. See, these are the things that you, like, take for granted now. You're like, "I can get literally anything at the tip of my fingers, and it will show up on my doorstep." N Not where I live because I kinda, like, live out in the boonies now, but when I was closer to Vancouver, like, I could order something, and it could be there by 8 o'clock that night. Like, that
Oh,
is
no. Yeah,
such
no,
a different.
that was not the system at all. It was, you were going into a department store and there was like, if you needed a snowsuit for that season, there was 5 snowsuits to pick up from, and then you would go to school and every kid had the same snowsuit on because there was nothing else to pick from. So that was kind of another reason why the thrift stores were nice, because they were bringing in stuff from other cities or other areas where you had a little bit more of a selection. And again, you're saving money and getting something a little different. Yeah.
That's true. So did you find that, like, when you were a mom at that age, were you one of the only people doing that, or was it kind of like a small community of people who were thrifting and it wasn't necessarily such a big thing at that point?
It wasn't a big thing at that point. I was the unusual one in my group of
Mm,
friends. But I was always very vocal about it. So, and I wasn't ashamed or like embarrassed by it. So, I mean, I would take you guys in these, little cute outfits, and it was, I found it at the thrift store. I had it.
yeah,
And we did have thrift stores at that time. So the stuff was available and that option was there, but I don't think it was not first choice. It
right.
was not first choice haircuts. It was not first choice to go and to buy from. So I was definitely the trendsetter, I guess, in my friends group of the thrifting one.
Were you the first influencer? Is that what you're saying? Were you the OG influencer?
I think there's some people that were before me that were doing it. In my hometown, I was.
You were the OG influencer in your hometown.
Yeah,
We did
exactly.
have cute outfits though when you look back at pictures.
Yeah,
There were
yeah.
some cute stuff.
Yeah. And I know that I always really tried hard to find stuff that when I was at the thrift store or out and about looking to find stuff that was really good quality too. Cause then I could always, whatever I bought for you, I always kind of bought, kind of gender neutral. So then your brother could wear it too. And then I passed it down to your cousins. So that circle kept going because I was buying good quality stuff at the thrift store and then 4 or 5 times down the loop before it actually probably got destroyed.
I feel like that is kind of like ahead of the curve as well, buying gender neutral clothing, because when you look back at pictures from the 90s, it was like girls were like pink, ruffles, frills, like girls were girls, and then boys were like blue trucks. Like it was very dichotomized, I feel like.
Yeah, it was, but I do remember picking up like little pairs of jeans and going, I know Kirsten will get into these, and then next year Keenan will get into them, and then we'll have that 2 years of them having clothes that they can wear. So yeah, I was kind of conscious about that back then.
That's actually a really good tip, I think, just overall for sustainability is when you're buying something, is this a multi-use product? Like is this something that is it fitting one use for me or is it going to fit multiple uses and can I use it for a bunch of different things? And then the life that you're getting out of that product is a lot more. And I think that's a good way to look at what you're buying, whether it's anything, whether it's clothes or a piece of furniture. Like if you're buying a buffet or something, you're like, okay, I could put this in my kitchen, but maybe if I ever want to remodel, like this would also look good in my bedroom at some point or something.
Yeah, and I do find that because now I have grandkids and I have a granddaughter and a grandson, I'm finding if I am going out and buying something new, I'm buying really good quality that I know is not going to get wrecked in 1 or 2 washes. I'm not going to say because Christmas is coming, but you pick up good pieces for your grandkids that you know is going to get handed down in those neutral colors that can, go from Carmen to Bodhi and then the next ones after that. And yeah, I think that's a really great tip.
Yeah, and I know I do it myself with everything that I buy, but especially like in my kitchen stuff. If I'm buying something that I know that I need, because I don't tend to buy things that are, especially in the kitchen, like I don't buy a lot of those like gimmicky one use tools. Um, so this is I have a lot of opinions, which people will start to realize. My husband always said, Robbie would always tell me that like if I ever had a podcast, it would be just like Kirsten's opinions of just everything that I had like gripes with or that I just would spout off because I have a lot of them. And people can agree with them or not agree with them, but one of my big things about kitchen stuff is I hate single use tools that are only for one thing and you use them maybe once a year.
I
Like
agree. Yeah.
you don't need a French toast press or something like that. Like that's stupid. Sorry. But
Or a hot dog or a hot dog cooker.
yeah, and you know what? If you have one and you're like the mom on the 4th of July who brings her hot dog cooker out, like, go for it. You can also just boil some water and put hot dogs in and then grill
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
That's
And there
also
are there are some fun stuff that you can get. But again, if you go into that thrift store today, around the corner from you, there's going to be 7 hot dog cookers there.
exactly.
So don't be
So pick
buying
one
those
up if you
brand
really
new.
want.
Yeah.
But what I was saying is when I buy something for my kitchen, I'm always like, okay, how many things can I use this for? If I'm buying a spatula, am I going to buy a plastic one that, is easy to flip stuff that's nonstick? Or am I going to buy a metal one that is the same thinness that I can use for fish, that I can use for delicate pieces of meat, and also just flipping your, grilled cheese or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
something that I think about a lot when I'm in the store and just taking that moment of being like, okay, am I going to actually use this and what can I really use it for?
And again, the same thing. I know we've gone thrifting together and you've been looking for kitchen stuff and you're finding good quality stuff at the thrift store that people buy and necessarily a lot of times don't know how to use them properly. I'm thinking of pans, pots and
Yeah,
pans
yeah.
and
Like
the
cast
stainless
iron and
steel or cast
mhm.
iron, right? And yeah, people just don't know how to educate themselves or learn how to use them properly, and then they just donate them, and then it's a bonus for you because you can pick them up at a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, and that also just reminded me of something that is another kind of sustainability tip for your life, just in general, that I have had to kind of teach myself to use a lot because, like we were talking about, everything has become so easy. So it's very easy to buy something and it just arrives on your doorstep. And we've definitely lost the art of repair and
Yeah.
fixing.
Yeah.
So a lot of times things will, and also things are not made to last anymore, so they break a lot easier. But a lot of times you'll have like a small break or a small wear in something, whether it's clothes or a pan. And like we have a kettle that like a screw comes loose all the time. So like we just bought like a washer, I guess, that like kind
Yeah.
of holds it in place a little better than what it was originally made with. And I'm at a different point in my life, might have just bought a new kettle.
Yeah. Because it's
And that
easy.
is because it's easy and you can get one right away. So I have kind of had to like teach myself and take a step back. Okay, if something breaks, is this something that is repairable? Can I repair it? Can I pay someone else to repair it for less than it would be to buy a new one? And like we were talking about stainless steel pan and it's just on my mind, but like those get dirty really quickly because they're just not naturally nonstick. So they can, get a lot of food crusted on or whatever. There's very simple tips to clean those. And sometimes people see a bunch of those brown stains and they're like, oh, pan's ruined, which is not the case. So if you can take the time to kind of learn some tips and tricks to maybe like clean something properly or to repair something, then that'll go a long way in extending the life of your product. And this is especially true if you are choosing to buy something new, then you can find out how to take care of it properly and fix, holes or something so that that product will last you a long time.
And just as you're saying this, I've just come up with a fantastic video idea
There you
of
go.
thrifting a set of stainless steel pans that look really grungy and cruddy, and teach, because you know how, teaching them how to clean them properly and use them properly and be sustainable and not buy new dishes.
Yeah, and, like, cast iron as well. Do you know how
Yeah.
many times I have had to bring my cast iron pans from the brink of death because I have Rob, who does not he's getting better. Again, I feel like I've talked about this before. He's not a great cook. He grew up on, which I feel like a lot of 90s kids did, like, grew up on nonstick. So everything is just, like, thrown in a pan. There's no, process of how to do something properly, and he's learning, but like he has destroyed my cast iron pans. He put one in the dishwasher once, and
And
that was like
I remember that day.
it was almost grounds for divorce, honestly. I took it out of the dishwasher. It was full of rust.
Yeah.
Full. And my plan for I have 3 cast iron pans. I have 2 12-inch cast or no, 2 10-inch cast iron pans and one I think it's like 4 or 5 inches, just a little one for eggs. My plan, like I am going to pass those cast iron pans down to my son. Like that is my plan. So I'm like they can't be ruined. It took me a day, but I got that cast iron pan back to like
Yeah.
tip top shape.
And James is the same way. He only cooks in cast iron and he can bring those pans back to just like a nonstick. And I honestly think every frying pan that we have that's cast iron, we've picked up at the thrift store and have been awful, and he's revived them and brought them back. So
Yeah.
that's lots of fun.
They're
Yeah.
also and like when you buy stuff like that too, and you buy stuff that lasts, and the company, whether you're buying it new or used, because usually like used, it's still a very good company who has made it. Like they've made things that are also really pretty, and I like decor wise, I love that look of like that old retro kitchen where you have all the pans on the wall and they're beautiful, but they're also used. And it's just like a very, I love that look in a kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah, and so much of that stuff can be thrifted and bought secondhand. And as we're just talking about this, I'm also thinking going back to buying stuff at the thrift store and then handing stuff down. A lot of times if stuff didn't get handed down, the thrift stores back then, and I think there's still thrift stores. I know you have one in your little town. You can take the clothes that you're finished with if you don't want to sell them yourself on Marketplace or Kijiji or something like that. Take them back to one of those little stores and they'll sell them for you on consignment. And then whatever they sell, you have a credit at that store to buy new clothes again. So that's another great tip for, for clothing and stuff like that, especially if you have little ones.
Yeah, we have a great shop on the coast here that does that exact thing specifically for kids' clothes. And the shop name is Coast Kids, and I think her Instagram is Coast Kids Reshop or something. So if
Okay.
anyone's on the Sunshine Coast, check her out because it's a great store. And she posts a lot about like sustainability in kids' clothing because it's they just don't wear them. Like I have so much stuff of Bodie's that like he maybe wore once, and she consigns. So I've bought so much stuff for her, and I'm gonna eventually take a bunch of stuff over there to consign and like swap out and get a credit and buy new stuff. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's such a good idea to have that kind of like circular lifestyle.
Yeah, and it's easy. I shouldn't say that it's easy because you have to be mindful about it because it's so easy to pick up your phone and just grab something off of Amazon or going to a website and grabbing it and knowing you're going to have it the next day. You have to kind of sit back and just stop yourself and think like, can I find this secondhand? Can we keep this cycle going of this that I'm going to be buying and yeah, just be mindful.
Yeah, and when we're talking about repairing stuff as well, I see so many wool sweaters at the thrift store that people have shrunk right down because they
Yeah.
don't know how you're supposed to properly take care of a wool sweater. And that is just a perfect example of like if just kind of taking the time to understand the material you're working with, how to take care of it, the way that you can prolong the life, like that will eliminate ruining something and then not knowing what to do with it.
Or you buy something like that, bring it home and turn it into Christmas ornaments or stockings or little
Mm.
mittens. So it not necessarily is ruined because there's still other things that you can do with it.
Yeah, and that's a really good tip about the using the wool because I actually never thought about that, of using it for that purpose of repurposing it to, make ornaments, especially this time of year, Christmas ornaments or something.
And they make gorgeous stockings, and it's just a matter of, like, just cutting out the shape of a stocking, and you can sew them together, or you can even just use some fabric glue and or hot glue and glue them together, and they're really cute. So, you haven't really ended that sweater's life. There's still lots of possibilities. You can also cut them into strips and use them for ribbon on your projects.
Mm. So, kind of speaking to that, then about what you can do with different fabrics, what if you are someone who is looking to repair things or think about a different way to use an item? What are some skills that you could learn that would most benefit you to kind of make your life a little more sustainable?
Um, the the first thing is just watching stuff on YouTube and finding inspiration. I find for me, it's that inspiration of what other people are doing, and then I can put my own spin on it and create something new. But as far as talent goes, I mean, you can, like we were just saying, making stockings, you can go as far as pulling out your hot glue gun. That really doesn't take a lot of talent to pulling out a sewing machine and doing a really nice stitch around the edge. So you don't have to have all these really fancy skill sets to do things like that. Just pick the level that you're at and create it from there.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking like maybe a very beginner level knowledge of like how to sew might be helpful.
Yeah.
Um, But you, like you said, you don't have to be like, you don't even have to have a sewing machine. I have like one of those little cheapy like sewing kits that just has some string and a couple things. And one of the biggest things that I learned was how to fix and stitch a hole in a sweater so it doesn't show.
Yeah,
That was like such a small thing that was so easy, but has saved so many sweaters. And it, I learned it on YouTube. I watched a YouTube of someone doing it and how you can do it from the inside of the sweater and
yeah,
just kind of close it together, and then you actually don't see the stitch on the outside.
yeah.
And that was like game changer for me.
Yeah, and it is very simple to learn those things, and there's so many great creative people out there that'll take you step by step through how to do that. That being said, if you're wanting to learn how to sew, head to the thrift store. It is full of sewing machines, and you can pick one up. I've seen them as low as $20, and there's usually, other than just being cleaned up, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. They just need to be
Mhm.
dusted off and head to a YouTube tutorial, the sewing machine 101, and learn some simple stitches. And that would be something if you're wanting to do a lot of upcycling with clothes and stuff like that and wanting to get started. That would be the first place that I would start.
Yeah, and if you're kind of more focused on furniture, then obviously like you have tons of videos of what you can use at home to upcycle that furniture and what you would need and tools. And I think we touched on that previous podcast of like what tools you would need and stuff for
Yeah,
that.
and my workshop is not by any means set up fancy. I have just the basic, and I can make some beautiful projects just with those tools. You don't need a lot of fancy.
No, a lot of it is like you said, just inspiration,
Yeah.
inspiration, and seeing things in a different way. And you also just never know what something could be and what you could use it for. And I know for myself, I don't necessarily have that like crafting mind where like the sweaters, I would never think about using that material for something else. I go more to like the clothes and the cooking thing. But when I listen to you or when I see other things from people who have YouTube channels that are similar to yours, like then I'm like, oh yeah, you could do that.
I didn't think about that. And a lot of
Yeah.
the times, I don't have that inspiration either. I'm heading to Pinterest or I'm watching somebody else and I'm going, oh, that is really cool. That's a really neat technique to do with that object. And then again, putting my own style or my own spin on it and creating something instead of buying something new. And a prime example of I just worked this whole past weekend on a 1980s hutch that's
Mm.
really dated. You know, that orange stain. And I mean, it screamed 80s kitchen. And I completely rehauled the whole thing. I'm thinking after Christmas, I'm going to have the video ready and done. Completely redid the whole thing, and you would not believe the before and after. And all it
Yeah.
was a little skill saw and some paint and some new knobs, and I transformed it into something beautiful again. So it just takes that little bit of creativity to spark something.
Yeah. And we've talked about it before. Like, inspiration can come from anywhere. And you just have to kind of have an open eye and seek it out and try to find people that inspire you so that you can, use those things yourself in your everyday life.
Yeah, and the thing that I struggle with as far as being an upcycler, I'm really good at taking one object and upcycling it, but I'm not very good at then, okay, now I need to take this and I need to style it in a room and
Mm.
pull it all together. That's what I'm not very good at. So that's where I'm trying now. I'm going onto YouTube and I'm finding other, I guess you would call them interior decorators or interior designers that are taking these pieces and now putting a whole room together. And I've been watching a lot of that and trying to find inspiration on how to put rooms together.
Yeah, and that is a good point too of when you, because I find it's a skill to look at a room and say, okay, what is going to look good in this room? And
Oh,
it's not something that
100%.
just happens.
No.
So finding people that you like the style of that do that and then kind of seeking out their advice is great, because then it can also give you a checklist of things that you need to look for And that also, to me, if I look at a room and I'm like, okay, so I need a dresser, a rug, and some wall art, and maybe two end tables. Well, now I have a list, and that actually eliminates those impulse purchases because then I know what I'm looking for, and it makes going to the thrift store a lot less overwhelming. And you can buy like one piece at a time.
Yeah, and that's actually that's really good advice is to go to the thrift store with an actual list of what you're looking for. Or what I've created actually a secret board on Pinterest of
Mm,
things that I'm looking for or inspiration. So because if you're just putting them on random boards on your Pinterest, it's really hard to organize them and keep them you know, organized and in your head. So when I'm in the thrift store, I can open up that board and I can be, oh yeah, I remember I wanted to see if I could find one of these, or this is how I wanted to style this. So I need to find this at the thrift store. And I think that makes it a lot easier because then you're not just randomly buying stuff and then bringing it home and going, oh, well, now what do I do with it? How am I going to stage this and pull this together?
yeah, exactly. And you're buying something that maybe, you really liked, but it might not have like a specific purpose. And now you're like, I don't know what to do with this, and it doesn't match anything that I have. So
Yeah. And then
having
you end up,
having that running list in your mind and even just like or on your phone or whatever is a really good
yeah,
way to help
yeah.
you.
And I love the concept of marketplace on Facebook, but and I love being able to find things on marketplace that are secondhand or somebody is selling, but I'm finding, and I even ran into this morning. I've been looking for a big dining room table with
Hmm.
at least 8 chairs. And I am running into spam account after spam account
I
after spam
know it's
account.
getting so bad.
Yeah, and I can't actually find a table that's actually for sale. And then you get in these messages and you're like, is it, and then they start asking for money for a down payment and it's like, is this real? Is it not real? And advice, never ever send money ahead of time to hold something
Yeah,
on
yeah.
marketplace because your money's gone. Always wait and go and see it first, and then. But I'm just finding that it's getting really difficult to buy on marketplace anymore.
Yeah, it used to be this like gem where you could find a lot of really good stuff, and I don't know if it's they're just not doing a good job at tracking who is on there because a lot of the time it's people. What I'm noticing is you will go on and it'll say like your town name, and then they have the location that is actually a totally different town but it has the same name. And
Yeah.
so it's like they're not even in your area, and somehow like they're getting filtered through. I don't know, it's being annoying to look for. I ran into that when I was trying to find patio furniture this summer. Like it was just a like so many people were scams, and we ended up like not even really finding one. But what I found on Facebook, which is better, is if you can find like your town's Facebook buy and sell page.
Yeah, and that's actually what I ended up doing was going to our actual town, and then you're recognizing names and you're recognizing that it's not a staged photo that's just been, screenshotted and put in a listing. And so that's a great tip, yeah, to go to your own local one.
Yeah, and then that way it's filtered a little more, and I find people are actually putting more stuff on there. And also because it's in your town, then you're more likely to get people who are not trying to make a bunch of money. Like they're like, I just want to get rid of this. Like I'll give you a deal, come pick it up, whatever. And we've gotten a lot of stuff that way. Like we sold our car through there. We also like I get, kids clothes, kids toys, things like that. And a lot of the time the kids toys people are like, just come take it out of my house. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And yeah, so I'm still on the hunt for a table after this one that I found that was beautiful and I knew it was going to work perfectly. And
Yeah.
after the conversation went into about the second message, I'm like, no, this is not
Yeah.
legit.
But I saw the style that you want. You want like a long kind
Yeah,
of
so I want a real
squared off
like a harvest
harvest
table,
table.
and I
Yeah.
wanna be able to sit at least 8 because there's 8 of us now, when we all get
Yeah.
together at Christmas, and it has to be big enough that we can pull up a couple high chairs too if we need to, so I'll
Yeah.
find something.
I'm wondering because the chairs you showed, like I feel like you can find those old style chairs pretty often. So you might
Oh,
just have to end up,
they're really easy to find,
yeah.
and
So
I
you might just
love
end up having to find the table and
yeah,
then
and I love the
pull up the
look, and
chairs.
I've actually got them pinned on my Pinterest board. I love a harvest table, and I don't care if the chairs even match. I love the look of, like, 8 different random wooden
Mm,
chairs, kinda that modern farmhouse feel, so
yeah.
I'll find them. I'm just kinda hunting now and
Yeah. And also, like, that's another good point that I just thought about was with this table, like, if there is something specific in mind, like, you can maybe find someone to make you that table, and it's, going to be a little pricier, but if it's something that'll last you for a lifetime, I don't know, might be
yeah,
worth it.
and I'm not gonna buy something that's just cheapy, put together a table that's gonna fall apart in a couple years because if we have the grand when we have the grandkids around a lot, they're tough on stuff. So, I mean, if it's a
Yeah.
good solid wooden table, then I can sand it down, restain it, reseal it. We're good to go for another couple years.
Yeah, exactly. That it's kind of worth at that point having a better quality one that you can just refinish. I'm gonna have to. I think we got actually my table that I'm sitting at right now is this was a marketplace find actually, but it took us a while.
To
And but
find
it's solid wood, good quality, and yeah, I'm kind of thinking at some point we'll have to refinish it, but for now it's fine. It
yeah,
just takes
and
a
I mean,
beating.
looking at the personalities of Carmen and Bodhi, there's gonna be a lot of marker and a lot of crayon in our near future where
Yeah,
it's gonna be
your
carved into the
grandson
top.
is wild. He is
He's
wild.
busy.
He's busy, and this whole the walking thing now where we're like he is 9 months, almost 10, but has been walking a little bit since the beginning of this month. So 9 months. And now he's like walking down the hall, he's walking into the bathroom, and so I'm at a whole other level of having to baby proof now. And it's just like yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It's all those changes we're getting pictures of Carmen. She's figured out how to climb on top of the kitchen table and I
Yeah.
have 2 grandkids that are climbers, so yeah.
It's gonna be at Christmas because he has another month. Well, actually, I will see you in person in a month
1
and a
month,
day.
a month and a day, and I'm
1 month
so
and a day.
excited. I know. I'm
So
excited
he
for you
has
guys to
one more month to
cycle.
practice walking,
Yeah,
and we will see where he is at when we get there. Because he's meeting, well, he's met Carmen before. So, but last time he saw her, he was he was like, he was crawling, but
yeah, he was crawling,
not
yeah.
there was still a like, there's only 6 months between them, but there was still a big difference, like, developmentally between them. That gap is closing now, which will be fun to see because they'll both be up walking, though he's, like, playing, he's also obsessed with big kids, like, he only wants to be like, the babies, he's like, "No, I wanna be around the kids who are, like, what I wanna do," so it'll be fun,
Yeah,
but then he's also meeting his 2 other cousins, and on his dad's side, so it'll be a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old. So we'll see how that all goes, but it'll be fun to watch.
an exciting holiday. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
busy. I don't. That we actually put up my Christmas tree on 2 nights ago, and it was so weird because I remember putting up my Christmas tree last year like so pregnant, but then thinking like, and I made these stockings that actually I'm gonna go grab one because it was
Yeah.
my crafting opportunity. I'll show you because I don't know if I have seen it. So I made these stockings. I made these stockings. Look at.
Oh, yeah, they were so cute, and they were just little iron-ons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I found these iron-ons and these stockings, and I did like a dad, a mom, and then one that says Bodhi, and I made them last year at Christmas, not this year because we had his name already picked out.
We should be saying,
And
because some people might not know, Bodhi was born January 21st.
21st.
So
Yeah.
you were very pregnant at Christmas last year.
Yeah, and it was actually I remember because you hit a date where you're like, okay, like it could happen anytime, and I remember being like, please just get me into January. I don't. want to
Amen.
have a Christmas baby for his sake, for present's sake, but I just want to get into January, into 2024. And we did, and we went a little any point in January I would have been fine with. Going another 3 weeks was like a lot. But
Yeah. Yeah.
what was I saying about that? Oh, so I made those last year, and being like, I cannot, like, this is our last Christmas, just us. What is this going to be like? And so we were putting up our Christmas tree, and it was fine, but he's just into everything. So he was basically like, we were just trying to make sure that he wasn't putting anything in his mouth. But there was at one point where like I lifted him up and he like helped me put one ornament on, and I like started crying a little bit. And I'm like, I can't believe that we're like here. Like we're
Yeah.
here. We're into like Christmas with kids now. Like what happened?
I know that year just flew by so fast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It is. But I'm excited to have everybody's going to be under our roof with their babies this year for Christmas. So that's exciting.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
a couple days.
Yeah. It's
It'll be
good.
fun. Lots of cooking, lots of presents, lots of craziness, and I'm sure we'll have stories to tell when it's all over.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, that was some really great tips
Yeah,
for
I
sustainability.
think we hit on everything. If you guys have any sustainability tips that you want to mention, you can throw them in the comments. And I love seeing the comments that we're getting, because this is a new thing that we're doing, and it's a little bit different style of content that we're trying out on your channel. And also with me being upfront a little more, I kind of have been behind the scenes for the most part. So we love reading your comments. And yeah, if you have any sustainability tips that you use, I'm sure other people would love to see them. So feel free to shoot them in the comments below.
Yeah, we're having lots of fun sharing our personal side of the channel here. So
Yeah.
good.
And as always, if you're looking for upcycled DIY tips, just search through our Upcycled Life YouTube page. We also have a website that kind of is housed all of the information that our Upcycled Life has on there. There's some blog posts, there's videos, there's graphics, all of that stuff, and that's just our upcycledlife.com. And there is a graphics club. So if you're someone who loves the graphics that you see in these videos and you love to craft with them, for $6.99 a month, which is basically the price of 2 graphics on your
Yeah,
Etsy
yeah.
shop, you get
And
access to an entire library.
yeah, and they're all designed by me.
All designed by mom. And there is lots and lots of really fun Christmas ones in there now. If you're
Yeah.
needing to do some holiday crafting, so that's available. Just visit the link in the description for the Graphic Club Patreon for that.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay, it was fun chatting.
Okay. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Love you too. Bye.